All right, so it's 11 o'clock. Thanks everybody for joining in. Like I said, my name is Alex Amges with Belzona Houston. Today we're going to talk about some hurricane readiness uh, aspects that we can use to be better prepared for hurricanes. Today's agenda, we're going to start off with waterproofing membranes. I think that's going to be the most important thing we talk about today. Um, and we're talking about hurricanes, but here in Houston, we're going to get those storms, we're going to get heavy rains. So you definitely want to be waterproofed and make sure everything can handle a couple inches of rain. And then for hurricanes, you're going to have several inches of rain. So that's going to affect your expansion joints as well. And we're going to get into some leak repair scenarios within petrochemical world that are also going to be dependent on rain as well. All right, so starting off, we'll start out with our Belzona membranes. These are not the first thing you think about when you think about Belzona. Typically, you're thinking the high pressure uh, internal liners for sulfuric acid and different very harsh environments. But we do have Belzona membranes, which are used to stop water from coming in. That's the main goal of these membranes. And we have a couple different examples of them, Belzona 3111, 3121, all the way to 3412, which isn't even on this sheet. So we have a couple different products that are used in specific applications. But in the end, these are external corrosion preventers and waterproofing materials. So they stop rainwater from getting in so you can protect certain areas. So where are we going to put these? Um, we'll show you coming up, but starting off, we have our two most standard products that we use, and I just wanted to show you how they can differ. So starting out with Belzona 3121, this is an epoxy polyurethane hybrid. It's a two-component product, so you have a base and a solidifier. You mix them, that starts a chemical reaction, and then it cures. This is an emergency grade membrane, and the reason why we call it an emergency grade is you can apply this underwater, you can apply this in the rain. So, especially in the winter, it's kind of tricky how much it rains here in Houston. So if you have a leak, but you can't really find that 2 or 3 days of no rain, you could put this on. It can rain in an hour, you're fine. You could do it in the rain if you really chose to do that. On the other hand, we have our Belzona 3111, which is a acrylic and it's a one component product. So it comes in this big 5 gallon bucket here and it cures via evaporation. So you don't have to mix it. It does require a primer, unlike the emergency grade 3121. And it also requires a certain cure time before it's exposed to rain. So this one, you have to plan it out. This one is our standard membrane, used a lot in roofing, tank base sealing. We'll show you some examples. But you have to make sure that you can apply it and it can fully dry before being exposed to rain. So when you have a well-planned application, this will be a great specification. So they can both work in the same ways. It's just you have to think about your environmental conditions and timing. And the 3111, you got to put the primer. The primer has to dry, so it has a little bit more to it. Um, but it just depends on the scenario. So what are we trying to solve? What are some of the areas that we get into? Let's think about roofing, which is, during storms, that's where you're going to get a lot of your leakage. You look up at the ceiling, you got water coming through. That's never a good thing. So all those areas where that water can come through, your penetrations, your joints and seams, skylights, glazing bars, gutters, these products can be used to properly seal those areas, especially on existing, when you first install your roofing, you're probably putting some sort of membrane in these areas and then putting your tiles or your shingles over that. But over time, things corrode, uh, movement of the structure, winds, hurricanes might damage some of these seals. So this is a good way to come and reinforce those and get them watertight. So Belzona starting out with some Belzona 3111 applications. Like I said, it's a single component water-based acrylic emulsion polymer. Uh, this is not your standard coating that you just you buy at at the local department store. So this has been tested vigorously by our Belzona Inc. manufacturer. So we test for a lot of things like can it handle accelerated weathering without losing flexibility. Uh, you know these products, we are expecting them to be puddled. We're expecting them to be for there to be water over them for extended periods of time. So does it maintain adhesion after being immersed for a long time? So we do adhesion testing after 336 hours. Now, another big thing about these products is our membranes are breathable. So they do not let liquid water in, but they allow a certain amount of water vapor to escape. So it does let your what's underneath it breathe a little bit. Now, where is that important? In a lot of applications, you don't want to seal because you'll get a buildup of mold in some buildings and structures. On the more industrial side, what you're looking at here is a tank-based seal. And this is our one of our biggest applications we use with Belzona 3111, where you seal the tank base. Tank base sits on a concrete slab for the most part, and water gets underneath the tank base and starts to corrode the bottom of the tank base and causes some very serious issues. So one of the things you want to do is seal that to stop water from getting under. Now, you do want it to be able to breathe, which uh, takes away some of the air and oxygen and water vapor, let it escape from underneath the tank so you don't have a buildup of corrosion even when after you've sealed it. Target thickness is 2 coats. And one of the things we do with all of our membranes is we include a reinforcement sheet within the first coat. So the first coat will go on, a reinforcement sheet will be added, similar to if you've ever seen them waterproof, like a shower they put in the membrane. So we have a sheet that you're looking at here. So the sheet goes in the first coat. That's going to add tensile strength. That's going to add water retention capabilities, and it's going to make it more durable. And then there's a top coat that goes on top of everything to fully conceal the sheet. So this is an example of a chemical building roof repaired by Belzone 3111. So a lot of our applications are industrial. We do buildings and structures as well. I have some examples. This is a scenario where you're getting water that's falling into your chemicals. So you're getting contamination. So this product is not really built for chemical contact with aggressive chemicals. It can handle some, but it's mainly in this application, it's not going to be exposed to any chemicals, but it's going to stop the chemicals from being exposed to water that can come during a storm. So obviously getting ready for rain season, hurricanes, they're going to find the weak points. If you have issues with your joints, seams, you can take care of them very easily with this product. It does not require the most prep. So it's just get the metal clean, get it a little bit rough, degrease it, put on the product. Also, this product can be applied to several different substrates. So this is an asphalt roof and was having some issues with water getting underneath it. Over time, these roofs get eaten up by UV light. They get degraded. They lose their flexibility. They start tearing and they start having water issues. And if you don't get to them soon enough, then the storm comes and that water comes in real hard. So if you see that drip, you can easily come pick your product. If you have time, we can go with our Belzona 3111. If we're more in an emergency time frame, we can go with our emergency grade product. So this was just another application showing this bonds to several different substrates, and due to its flexibility, it can handle movement of different substrates as well. Another industrial application here on the geodome roof where it was having some issues at the joints. You can see on the bottom left, #2 picture, just getting some problems with contamination into the tank. So you have a finished fuel storage tank and you're getting water in there. You're not going to be able to meet your specifications. That's big time loss when you had this product that's been refined all the way to its final product and then you're getting contamination. So this was an application where they had to seal the seams. As you can see here, this is a good application for Belzona 3111 because it is a tougher application as far as you can see you're on top of a roof, fairly large application. So with Belzona 3111, there's no mixing required. You can take that 5-gallon bucket, take your time, coat all the seams that you have to. Uh, Sometimes, like in this one right here, I don't think the reinforcement sheet was used, and it was not used because of the difficulty. You can see here we have the bolts, the seams. That reinforcement sheet wouldn't lay too well there. So it does provide sealing with just the product itself. The reinforcement sheet's going to add that tear strength and a little bit more longevity, but in certain applications, we'll have to switch up the specification to make it work better for the installer. So this is one here where we're moving on to the emergency side. This was a checker plate roof, and they were sealing some joints that were leaking once again into a product, into a process. So they needed something quick. Storm coming, rain coming. They needed something that could be ready for next day water exposure. So again, as you can see here, they taped off the seams, prepped the metal, and laid in the membrane with the reinforcement sheet, and it was gave them long-term protection, stopped further corrosion, and also sealed these areas. So just simple. I mean, we're just sealing areas from getting in water. Going from the industrial side to the buildings and structure side, we see a lot of issue with buildings and structures, especially here in Houston when you have the lower levels, basement levels, and we do tend to flood a lot. So these areas get a couple feet of water, and then what takes the hit is everything below it because you got issues where your buildings meet the floor, expansion joints and such. So this was an emergency scenario. Hospital, it was leaking into an operating room underneath this building. We came in on the weekend, as ASAP, sealed the area, and we were able to find where it was leaking, seal those areas, and did them a great service here by stopping the water from getting and stopping their process. Same area here, but different application where we instead of using our membrane, we went with our expansion joint material because the expansion joint they had failed and led to once again water going to the level below. So we have different products for different applications. Um, if we're doing an expansion joint, we're going to stick with our expansion joint material, which are actually a little bit even more flexible than our membranes. Our membranes could be used in this scenario, but there was a gap there that was perfect for an expansion joint. The membranes, once again, are also flexible because they're going to need some movement because they're going to be always in those areas that are, the joints, the seams where you're meeting two different structures are meeting and has a joint that can lead to leakage. So that's why you need that flexibility, and that's what we have with either the expansion joints or our membranes. Now moving to even more industrial application. Just wanted to show this one, a floating roof application. See a lot of issues with floating roofs, and then the other issue is, it rains, right? So this gets full of rain, and if you have a floating roof that has corrosion on the top, has leakage, you got several issues. You got environmental issues from your product leaking, going into your drains, and getting contaminating your drains, leaking, falling off the tank, falling on the floor, or water getting into your tank and contaminating your product. So this is a little bit different application than our typical membrane application because here we're going to be fighting leakage from the product that's in the tank. So a lot of times we're doing floating tanks, could be gasoline, could be crude oil, toluene, different chemicals. We see them all the time. Well, for the most part, a lot of them are going to be your crude oil. So you're fighting some chemicals. It's actively leaking, and you also need something that's flexible because the floating roof, you get a lot of movement. So we've attacked these a lot of different ways. This has been a regular application for quite a while. Some of our most recent applications we've done is the first thing, you got to stop the leak. So you want to do, specify what type of prep is safe and allowable. So we'll work with our asset owner, figure out what kind of prep we can do. Because a lot of times you can't really prep anything because you have gasoline on the surface, crude oil, so you got hazards. So you can't really have a grinder out there. You can't make sparks. So we have different spark-free tools we can use. We have vapor blasting, which is water with abrasives to create a good profile. Because if you don't prep the metal, if you're going right on top of an oil puddle, it's not going to stick very well. So it's very hard to stop a leak when you cannot prep the metal and get that good bond. So we prep the area and we try our quick cure leak sealing materials. Some of it's called Belzona 9611. It is a epoxy stick that you can plug holes with. Our Belzona 1212 is our rapid cure uh, putty that can be put right over the epoxy stick. That's your first step. Gotta stop it from leaking. Once we stop it from leaking, which can take a couple rounds of tries here, then we can okay, now we can prep a little bit better. We don't have oil leaking on us. We don't have any chemicals leaking on us. We can make a bigger area, prep beyond that leak, and we can apply a superior system. So at times we'll use our fatigue resistant adhesives or we'll use our composite patches. We have fiberglass, we have carbon fiber. We want to make a shell over that leak stop that creates a secondary roof structure that will reinforce that leak stop, reinforce the metal loss, and create basically a new roof for that section. And then finally, because there's a lot of movement, we'll go even further and put a flexible barrier on top of that. So we'll put something flexible over our composite patch and our leak seal so that everything is contained within that. Um, everything is contained with the flexible top. So if anything were to move, it'd be underneath our flexible top. And then, of course, you're going to get a lot of sun. So we'll give it a UV top coat. And this is what it looks like in the end. These are tough applications. You know, as you can see here, you got a roof that's quite, got buildup of dirt, water, debris, chemicals over time. So you really, the prep is the crucial part. It's hard to work up there. You're working on breathing air. In the summer it's really hot, in the winter it's cold. So it's a tough working environment. You definitely have to tackle one spot at a time and just work your way, but it's definitely doable. You need some good products, good procedures, and good training, and you can get them done. That way, when you have your rainstorms, you don't have contaminated products. You don't have an increase in corrosion. Sometimes with heavy rains, you might open up some new holes. So in these cases, a lot of times we'll find weak spots and reinforce them before they start leaking to get the roof ready for heavy rains and a lot of because that water can sit in certain areas and create a lot of stress on some of the roof panels. And that's all I had for today. Definitely, I wanted to mix it up, going from the industrial environment to the buildings and structures and show what we can do. We also have a lot of other ways that we can just reinforce um, weak areas. So obviously, with the high winds during hurricanes, any weak spot, any weak weld is going to fail or can fail. So we have ways of reinforcing those. We've done a lot of those examples in other webinars. Today, I wanted to stick to the leak repair and waterproofing, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Also, if you wouldn't mind sending your email in the chat, we can send you a continuing education credit hour for attending this webinar. Once again, we appreciate you guys joining in. Any questions? Once again, hope everybody made it safe through the hurricane. Definitely crazy that was just only a category 1. So definitely get everything fixed up for the next round. Hopefully nothing comes again. And but just anything that you got, you can give us a call. We can see if we can make it more reliable, more waterproofed, and that's what we're here for. So once again, thanks for joining. Have a nice week, and look forward to the next time.